Hi guys, welcome back to another Bourbon Santa video. Today we're doing J. Henry. Now, full transparency, because I like to be super honest with you guys. I already shot this review once, and I went into the review blind, and I thought this being a craft whiskey that I had never heard of before, that I would just try it, not do any research, not look into it, just taste it, see how it is. This was sent to me as a gift from one of my patrons, and never having heard of it before, I didn't expect much. So I just did the review, and after doing the review, I looked into this whiskey some more and decided to throw away my initial review and do this over again now that I know some things. Because this is a case study in a whiskey underselling itself on the bottle and not giving you enough information on the bottle. So I ended up going through their website, did a bunch of searching on the internet to find out some things, because there's some things I didn't know from the bottle. It says produced by and bottled by the Henry Farms Prairie Spirits, and this is coming from the J. Henry and Sons farm, but nowhere does it say that they distilled it. So I did a little digging. They are probably contract distilling this through 45th Parallel Spirits. They're using their own recipe. They're using a very unique barrel situation, and they're using a very unique mash bill. Nowhere on this bottle does it tell you that this is a 4-grain whiskey, which is just such a short-sighted bottle design. Oh my gosh, give us some of this information, because if I had known half the information I'm about to give you, I would have treated this bottle with way more respect. Not in the tasting realm of it, but in my going into my experience of tasting it and what I was looking for. So here's some interesting information about this bottle. This is a 5-year-old bourbon that is finished in cognac. This is their Bellefontaine Reserve. It's finished in cognac. It's straight bourbon, 51.25% alcohol. It's batch. This is batch 5. And on the back, it talks about they use grains that they grow on their farm. It's not 100% clear that they're actually using grains from their farm, but it turns out they're using 3 of the grains. 3 of the 4 grains are grown on their farm. I'll get to that mash bill breakdown in a second. And then also on the back here, it talks about using a historic French blending technique that adds complexity, richness, and nuance. They don't explain what that technique is at all. You've got to go to their website. And this technique is fascinating, and I've never heard of this being done in a bourbon before. So let's start with the mash bill, and we'll get to that blending situation. The cognac that this is aged in, it's in that barrel for 8 months. They also don't say that on the bottle. They just say 5 years. So this bourbon was in regular bourbon casks for 4 years and 4 months, and then 8 months in cognac casks. Unless, due to their not fully explaining everything, it's 5 years old in bourbon, and then 8 years, which would make it 5 years, 8 months, which could be, because they're not doing a great job of describing this. I feel like they need to hire me to be their marketing department and really turn this up. Okay, 4-grain mash bill. 60% red heirloom corn grown on their farm. 14% winter wheat grown on their farm, also heirloom. 14% heirloom spinner rye grown on their farm. 12% malted barley, which is sourced from other farms in Wisconsin. So at one point or another, they grew barley on their farm. They don't anymore, I guess, or not enough to keep up with to do this. So they are sourcing the barley from somewhere else in Wisconsin, but whatever. So let's talk about their staves. The staves are seasoned air dried for 2 years, then lightly toasted to caramelize all the sugars, then charred to a level 3. They are using a proofing process that I had actually never even heard of before. This French blending technique that they're talking about. What they did was they took barrels of their bourbon, proofed them down to 30% alcohol, and then aged that 30% alcohol proofed down. It's not even bourbon anymore. It's not even really whiskey. They took that liquid and used that to proof this down to 51.25% alcohol. So they're proofing their whiskey down with low proof whiskey. That's awesome. That's awesome. They're not explaining any of this on the bottle. So all of the technique and interesting things that are going into making this, they're not explaining. It's just, hey, here's a 5-year-old cognac finished bourbon. Try it. Not, hey, we did some cool stuff with this whiskey. So that's what I mean by not giving it the respect it deserves. We're going to go through the tasting here in a minute, and you'll see. But the amount of craftsmanship that went into creating this bourbon needs to be sung from the rooftops, and they're not doing that well enough. It's on the website, but some of that has got to get on this bottle so that people know what's going on here. Now, this is very regional. It's almost only in Wisconsin. It doesn't have a lot of distribution. This is craft whiskey, and I love craft whiskey. I love whiskeys that are being produced not by major distilleries. This is, like I said, being distilled at 45th Parallel. Most likely, as far as I can tell, contract distilling. So it's not coming from MGP or Dickel or any other huge distillery that's turning out lots of stuff for other bottlers. This is their own design. It's the whiskey they wanted to make. I guess they just don't have the distillery capability to do it themselves yet. They don't say, because they don't mention anywhere on their website 45th Parallel. But this is just what I can glean from the internet. So we don't know if this was copper pot still. We don't know if it's, how they're distilling this. But let's dive into this. Before we do that, though, I have to say this bottle was sent to me by Kevin Taber, who's one of my patrons and awesome dude. And thank you so much, Kevin, for sending me this. And now that I know more about it, I'm even more appreciative of getting to try this. So let's nose, let's taste, let's see what Wisconsin has to offer. Right away, the cognac comes through, backed up by a rich butterscotch. Those heirloom grains do sing differently than just normal corn. This is that heirloom red corn, and it's 60% corn. So this is a decent amount of corn. I didn't know when I tasted this the first time that this was a 4-grain whiskey. So I wasn't really looking for it, but now that I know, I can kind of pick up on the wheat that's in this. That little wheat, prickly note that I get from wheat whiskeys. I can get it. Of course, I got rye before. Little did I know it was heirloom spinner rye, so a different strain than normal. And I really don't know the difference between regular wheat and winter wheat. Not that much of a farmer, I guess. But the nose on this is wonderful. The cognac doesn't take over. Some cognac finished bourbons, the cognac just comes in, smashes everything, and you don't get the other notes from any of the grains or from the bourbon. You're getting just hit with a wave of cognac. Belle Mead's kind of a problem for me in that way. The cognac is a little overstated on Belle Mead. The cognac finished Blood Oath was a little too cognac for me. This is, to me, the perfect amount of cognac. It's just another layer of flavor going into this whiskey. I get a little bit of chocolate, that butterscotch that I already mentioned, a little caramel, a little drizzly drizz. Oh. I'm going to taste it now. Oh, man. There's a rising out of the molasses and butter. There's like a little bit of hearty bread that could be a little rye. It's not fully rye, but it in my mind, it comes across as like that. I don't know. The flavor isn't right, but in my brain, I'm seeing like the dark brown, hearty, the bread from Outback, the Outback bread loaf. Yeah. Like rising out of molasses and honey. That's what it is. Mm. Oh my. There's a hint of nuttiness that starts to show up. That caramel, the sweetness, the legs on this whiskey are absolutely ridiculous. Legs from the mouth all the way back down to the whiskey. Just ridiculously viscous and thick. Oh. The grains sing through. They shine through. Not that this feels young in any way, but the hardiness of the grain is showing through. I'm just fascinated by this. It's wonderful. This is a whiskey you could sit with for an hour and just tease more and more stuff out of it. Getting a little candied something now. Wow. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Kevin, for sending me this. This gets a place of respect on my shelf. Thank you so much. Craft whiskey can be amazing. I love finding craft whiskey that stands up to the big boys. That makes me proud of them for turning out an amazing product. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, have a great day.